We interrupt this broadcast to bring you a news flash.
A woman's sex breaks loose from between her legs and escapes out into the streets. It terrorizes a residential neighborhood for an entire afternoon. A dapper old geezer makes the mistake of jauntily trying to handle it right after its appearance on the sidewalk and gets a finger bitten off for his presumption. A gang of teenage truants who taunted in a garden are driven away howling. It flaps and seized after them, snapping off the sticks and baseball bats with which they try to fend it away. One of the youths relates his terrified drama over the radio of how he tripped and fell down and only saved himself by hiding for over an hour in a trash can while not 2 feet away in the alley it squatted, gnawing on a rusty bicycle pump. Most disturbingly, a dozen schoolchildren on their way back from a museum visit are traumatized by the sheer sight of it. They huddle together, wailing and sobbing long after it has disappeared. Every so often, a single childish voice still bursts into pathetic screams. The teacher can be heard gasping on the radio in half sentences. "Tender young psyches" and "in ruins," a phrase she repeats numerous times. Around dusk, the escapee scuttles up into an elm tree, and there the authorities surround it. It keeps them at bay, flapping and spitting from the branches. A policeman crawls up with a snaring pole and has it wrenched from his hands. A nasty stalemate ensues. I listened to the account of all this being broadcast on the radio. Someone's at my door. It's a bulky, worried-looking man wearing, in the old-fashioned manner, a hat. He announces himself as a deputy to the mayor. "Can I come in?" he says. He gets right to business. And not only is it a public outrage, but it's only a matter of time before someone loses more than a finger. He grins with difficulty. A terrible embarrassment to the city and the mayor. Something has got to be done immediately. You've got to help us. Me, I ask? Why me? What about the woman to whom, how shall I put it, it belongs? He shakes his head. She's too distraught, he says. Well, you can imagine. How would you feel in her position, he asks, coloring slightly in the lamplight. I don't answer. He leans close. We all know your books down at City Hall, he says. We're big fans. We think you have a special understanding, a facility about these sensitive matters. That wild story about the strawberries, and that other one about the 12-inch dame who rolls. Then you'll also know full well that I've just gone through a tremendously difficult and disabling time. Won't you? I interrupt. I walk over to the mantel. I'm in no position to have a relationship right now, I mutter, my back towards him. My God, no one's asking you to have a relationship, he protests. We're simply asking for your help for just one evening. I don't answer. I stare at the mantel. Please, he beseeches from somewhere in the room behind. We're desperate. You know, you're the only one we believe can save the situation. Think of the innocent people, the kids, he adds. I roll my eyes at the hyperboles. What is this, some grade B cop thriller, I mutter? What's that? Nothing, I sigh. I close my eyes. I run my hand over my face. All right, I murmur. All right, all right. I turn blearily towards him. It'll take me a few minutes to get ready, I tell him. In the bathroom, my hand trembles as I shave and find the old cologne bottle and the jar of pomade. I take out the dark suit, the one I always look good in. I still do. I give my brown and white striped tie a last tug in the mirror, and I shake my head with a grunt at the ripple of memory and melancholy. All right. Let's go, I exclaim somberly, re-emerging. To do this 100%, I'd normally stop off for a boutonniere, but we don't have the time. Our official car maneuvers through the police blockades. We turn a final corner, and the scene is in front of us. Squad cars and fire trucks pack the end of the street like a disorganized mass of cattle. A pair of spotlights are trained into the upper branches of the ELM. A fire ladder probes the forbidding leafy darkness. The rungs are empty and ominous. The crowd, the curious and the frightened, strain for the barricades, for a glimpse of melodrama in the slow flashing of the squad car lamps. It's a circus, a bloodletting, a zoo with cage doors broken. We pull up in the dying wail of the siren. I get out. The ELM towers above me. Grim and suave, I make my way through the squalid tumult toward the center of the outrage. The deputy explains to the police chief who I am. The police chief is big and red-faced and very unhappy. This is what I want, I declare, my eyes fixed on the branches. I want this entire street cleared. I want each damn one of these spotlights off. I want nothing here but this ladder truck. There's no way, the police chief barks at me in outraged protest. Do you realize? Listen, I snap, swinging about. I do this my way, or I don't do it at all. There's a stark pause, taut with stares. Do what he says, the mayor's deputy cries. Do exactly what he says. The chief swears and turns away. He starts shouting blurrily through his bullhorn. 15 minutes later, the street is empty. There is only the ELM and the ladder from its truck, and me in the moonlight. The black hulk of the mayor's deputy's car watches from the end of the block with its lights off. I take a breath and look up along the diminishing metal parallels of the ladder. I whisper, "Good luck." Wet my lips and start climbing. The only sounds in the street are my footsteps mounting one after another from rung to rung. And the lilt of the ballad I'm whistling. My eyes are fixed on the top of the ladder, through the dark branches. I press slowly on. At last, without incident, my head and shoulders clear into the zone of high leaves. The scent in the moonlight is tangy and unadulterated. I pause there, clutching on and whistling now in tender, ultra-intimate tempo. The melody tugs soft and piercing at my heart as I smile right at my quarry, crouched not more than a couple of feet away in the saddle of two branches. It resembles the innocent head of hair of a young brunette child. Streaks of exposed wood gleam pale near it from where it has gnawed away the bark in its fits of temperament. Slowly, gracefully, I extend an open hand towards it, with fingers relaxed and slightly spread. "Hello there, you beautiful oyster," I whisper to it huskily. "I know you and your kind, you moonlit kitten, you pretty sea muffin, you sweetmeat with your pride of fur. So pretty, I coo, as I reach very gently forward and touch it. Lightly, I begin stroking, employing just my fingertips. The mons veneris feels tense, dry. I continue this nerve-wracking procedure for several sustained minutes, alternately whispering and whistling. The soft, plush hair sends a throb through me. I blink away sweat. I swallow and feel about delicately for the little pink knob. I find it. I commence my attentions there, gently, just with the soft pad of the fingertip. I feel the muscles begin to relax and then the first moisture. I tremble powerfully and lean close and slide a finger into the cleft. The lips turn immediately slick. I work away there, then back to the knob, feeling the spasms of response. My breath grows hectic. I grunt in labor and involuntary appreciation. My wrist is starting to ache. I wriggle up awkwardly another rung so that I'm several feet well clear of the ladder top. With a flutter of trepidation, swampy with desire, I slip my hand away as deftly as I'm able, so both right and left can grip the ladder. I bend forward. "May I?" I murmur in a thickened voice, and my heart throbs through me, and I lower my mouth. The old familiar taste is sweet, almost fruity, like melon and seawater. My tongue finds the little knob right away. Expert as ever, it worries it. I maneuver about with firm, fervid, lingering strokes. Memories flood me. I plunge my whole face down, shoving my tongue deep into the sloppy cleft. I rub with my nose and shake with my cheeks and work my tongue to a fare-thee-well. The object of my attentions bucks around under me. The ladder begins to sway and dip as the two of us go at it for all our worth, up among the leaves and the branches, under the gaze of the moon. Suddenly my balance goes and I burst away and hang on wildly as I swing outward and then treeward on the ladder's swiveling pendulum. I throw back my goo-plastered head and I laugh in abandon and intimacy up through the greenery, up at the blinking stars. I manage to stabilize myself at last against a branch, and I give a clearing pull over my face with my hand. Come on, you angry oceanic mouse, I whisper to it huskily. Time to go home. I extend my dapper arm. It climbs slowly onto my wrist. It mounts waggling up my sleeve. I feel it sopping heat through the material. It perches finely on top of my shoulder. As carefully as I can, on wobbling legs, I start down, laughing gently as my burden nuzzles my neck. After several pauses along the way for rearranging, I step down at last onto the bed of the ladder truck, and then, finally, into the street. The mayor's deputy's car rolls slowly towards us. Sometime later, the car turns into a street of brownstones in a different part of town. And thank you again for all of us, the hatted figure calls quietly through the window as I mount the steps to a front door. The car pauses, then drives off into the night. I ring the doorbell. After a few moments, I hear hurrying footsteps. The door jerks open. The woman gapes at me. She cries out, and in her motion, covers her mouth with her hands. Everything's fine, I reassure her. Everything's fine. I extend my shoulder towards her. She reaches out with both hands and seizes the warm, plump epaulette. I make a gesture for her not to concern herself at all with ceremony. She turns and hurries into the house. Please, come in. Just be a minute, she says. After closer to 30 minutes, she finally reappears, smoothing her dress over her thighs. She's tidied herself up nicely, but she's obviously still feeling great emotion. She comes partway into the room, and then she halts. She lifts her hands, but at a loss, drops them. How can I ever thank you? And what can I get you to drink? I shrug. I name something. She goes over to the sideboard and mixes two of the same. I take my glass from her. We sit down. We clink and sip. I keep my jacket still buttoned. There's a pause. Her gaze drifts down to her lap, and she laughs suddenly, shaking her head. She looks at me. Her eyes sparkle. I grin back in labored pleasantness. I put my drink on the coffee table. I rub one hand with the other. Please, listen to me. I'm afraid I feel the need to say this, I tell her, my eyes still fixed on the coffee table. Please understand, I was very glad to be of help, and I truly hope you know I had a very, very lovely time. I prod a drink coaster with 2 fingers. But I'm still recovering, you see, from a very difficult situation, several years' duration, and I'm still not whole. I'm in no position right now to get involved. The woman grins back at me, a mix of strong emotions working her. I understand, she says huskily. I stay a while longer as she talks about this and that, the tender babble of the lonely-hearted. 2 lonely people together in a lonely room in the night. but I can only sip my drink and smile at her sweet voice and linger yearning in the lamplight. Hopeless, loveless, heartless. Then it's time for me to go. We embrace. Goodbye, she says softly. Goodbye. Goodbye, I tell her. I start up the street. The moon is still up. The night is cool. I turn up my jacket collar. I sniff my fingers for a moment and snort quietly and sigh deeply as I incline my head against the tide of memories and make my way along through the sleeping town.